Welcome to Advisors on Growth, the show where we talk with trusted advisors behind growing companies about the problems leaders misdiagnose until they become expensive. How you doing today, Tony?
Excellent. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Tony, can you tell us what have you done in the last, 12 months or so to actually help and advise companies within your organization?
Oh my goodness. So myriad of different companies that I advise, from law firms to CPA firms to people at retail, those kind of things. But some of the big things have been helping them select leaders within their organization and provide them some training to develop them. Some companies don't think that they have the talent inside their company, and they think they need to look harder before they start looking outside. And when they do that, they find some diamonds in the rough.
Oh, nice. Can you share a bit about your role and the kinds of companies you work with and where you usually get pulled in?
Yeah, my role is interesting because with the small and medium sized business market, some of them really don't know what you can do for them in HR, right? Some of it is, oh, I have a problem with an employee. Can you come in and help me? That's the way it starts, and then we build on that conversation from there. Be about you know helping them grow within their business, helping them retain the best people, helping them put together processes to hire the best people, helping them put together processes to retain the best people. And a lot of them really don't know that those are things that HR can do for them.
Okay. And when you say those are, a lot of things that people don't know that HR can do for them, what types of problems or situations do you see that some of the owners or founders don't see within their HR?
Yeah, well, they don't have HR, right? So they're trying
Okay.
to struggle with it themselves. So they're an owner and they're growing their business, and they see themselves doing all the work, and they don't think that they can. They've tried to delegate some of the tasks of managing the organization to other people, but they miss delegating it the proper way. And I'll give you an example. A lot of companies delegate or think they're delegating when they just give somebody else the task to do, and they tell them what to do all the time. And they need to just ask them how they think they should do it and give them the opportunity to succeed. Because if all they're doing is giving someone who they're calling manager and telling them how to do it, then they're really not taking anything off their plate. They need to be able to delegate that so that they can focus on working on their business instead of working in their business.
Hmm. And what stage of growth are those companies usually in?
Most of them at the stage of growth are just breaking through. I don't want to talk about the value. I'll talk about the number of employees. Once they hit
Hmm.
10, 12 employees, they start struggling with managing all the day-to-day employee things, as well as even things like dealing with customer complaints and dealing with customers onboarding and all those kinds of things. They tend to want to take that all themselves because they do it better than the rest of the people in their organization. So helping them understand how to pass on all the knowledge that they have in their head to the next person that they want to grow, so that they could take a deep breath at the end of the day. Instead of working 18 hours a day, maybe they could lower that down to 10 to 12 hours a day.
And who tends to call you first? The owner, CFO, CEO, or leadership team?
Usually the owner, right?
Mhm.
Because when they're smaller companies, 10 to 12 people, they don't have a CFO and other people in the leadership. They're the individual, and I call it they're the Superman of the organization. They are the
Mm.
CFO, they are the COO, they are the CEO, they are HR, and helping them let go and giving things so they can grow, so they can get that next person, so they can bring in a CFO. And if they don't have that person at that level in their organization, helping them figure out how to pick the right person to do that. Because part of what happens as they're growing, and they need to add somebody, let's say a director of operations. They attempt to add a director of operations in a company that's growing, and that position is new for the organization. So they need someone that is, I call it a builder, and they pick someone who's a remodeler. And I use a lot of analogies. That remodeler is someone who takes over something that's already there and makes it better. The builder is the person who takes something that nothing's there and build it from the ground up. And a lot of small businesses need that person to take it and build it from the ground up. And this way, because there's nothing there, and this way they can kind of let go and take their time with that person and build it from the ground up. And they can separate out those duties between what they do and what that new director of operations does.
Hmm. So what is one problem leaders often think is like one thing, but from your seat, it's actually something else?
Well, I get called and people say, I don't know what to do about my turnover problem, right? I have a high turnover and I'm understanding and talking to other business owners that within this industry, 30, 40, 50% turnover is common. And I just don't know what to do. Can I bring it down, right? And what do I do about that? Some of it is they may have a second level leader that is kind of an authoritarian person and they're not. And they don't know that, right? Because they don't spend the time to sit down and meet with the people that are in the organization. And they don't find that until they bring me in. Or I'll sit down and I'll talk to the people and find out how that leader between them and the owner is. Everything was great when it was just the owner. Now he brings in another person that they work for and turnover spikes, right? And now what they're hearing from that second leader is, or now that director of operations, everything's fine, people are just leaving, and they don't take the time to talk to the people below that person. And I say to them, look, you need to talk to them. And they say, oh, well, I don't want my director of operations to think that I'm overstepping or I don't trust them. And there's an
Yeah.
old saying that Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify, right?
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. It's an old Ronald Reagan saying. In the military, we used to say, inspect what you expect. If you expect certain things from your leader, they shouldn't be concerned when you go talk to people that work for them. And some of
Yeah.
those are called 1-over-1 interviews. You interview the people that are the next level below them. And you learn a lot from doing those things.
Awesome. So you mentioned turnover. Before that problem gets really expensive, what warning signs usually, show up that leaders tend to overlook?
Simple warning signs, people calling in sick, people showing up late, people not having the enthusiasm that they had before when you hired them. What's going on? What's wrong? Why? What turned their personality around? Something's going on. It may be as simple as you hired a peer to that person that is not pulling their weight and they're afraid to come to you and tell you that that second person that you hired that they have to work with is not pulling their weight. And you may have said something as a leader at one point that says, all right, I need you guys to get along. I don't want to hear any of the stuff that goes on between you. And then what do you do? But you need to give people the opportunity and the open door to say, come and see me if something's wrong and we can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to give them an opportunity. These problems start top down, or is it management versus employee? Is the CEOs not aware of what's going on? Or?
A lot of times when you're looking to identify the problem, you're not going to hear about it from the top down. You may hear one thing from the people at the top, but you're going to hear something else when you get out and you talk to people. And let me give you an example. I worked for a company here in Florida. We had 13 locations around the US. Their operations folks were headquartered with me here in Florida, and they very rarely went to their locations and visited. And they only hear from their site management team how things are going. And I would look at and give them reports and say, here's your first 30-day turnover, 90-day turnover, your 1-year turnover, and here's what's going on. And if you find one place that there's a big spike, that one place has much higher turnover than others, you need to dig into it. And they'd say, oh, I talked to the site manager. The site manager says, it's just the market. It's just this, it's just that, something else. I took the time as the HR leader for the organization. We have 750 employees. I would go to those places that I see that there's got to be some underlying issues. And I would meet with the employees there, and I would bring back feedback to the leadership team and say, no, what you're from your leadership team on site is not the case. The case is that the on-site leadership team is not listening to their employees. They're not taking the time to listen to what's going on. They're not taking the time to sit down and get to know them and get to know the people that work there. And things are going on there that the leaders say they don't want to hear about. Just fix it. Just take it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's where that high turnover happens, because people don't want to feel like they're being thrown under the bus or they're not giving the support they need to be successful, right?
Yeah.
To say, I'm not going to be able to be successful here, so I'm going to leave before it gets bad.
You think this is like an industry-wide problem or an issue in the marketplace right now, or is it just pertain to certain types of companies?
I think it happens more when you have multiple sites. If you have 10, 12, even 2 or 3 sites, you need to spend more time. It's a different skill set. And I have something on one of my blogs on my site that talks about it. It's a different skill set managing people that manage others when they're not co-located with you. People call it, oh, they're remote. Well, you're not remote. You're just at a different location. Remote people when they use the term remote, they're working from home. And really, it's the same managing people to work from home, except when you're managing people to work from home, they typically don't manage others. But even if they do, right? If I've got 5 locations, as the leader of that organization, you need to be out there taking the temperature about what's going on in those locations, right? And having those team meetings, right? Getting out and saying, hey, we're going to have a team meeting for this location separate from other locations. I worked at a company where we had a lot of locations and we used to have a quarterly get together on Zoom with everybody. But then we would go out, the senior leadership and I would go out and visit sites individually. Because when you have 5 or 6 or 7 locations, you can't get all the feedback you need. You're looking at it from a 30,000 foot level. I call it, you need to get down to the ground level and look at
Yeah.
what's going on before it explodes.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to like certain issues that, most employees would be facing and their managers aren't listening, which is causing high turnover, what do you think some of those issues are? Do you have any stories?
Oh, yeah, lots of stories. But so, I'll give you an example. I worked at a company and we had warehouses and we had people quitting. They were getting fired and quitting because their quality score was low, meaning they would ship product out and the product was being returned because the customers would get the wrong product. When I went to the site and I said to the people that worked there, why are people losing their job or getting disciplined for quality? And they said, well, the problem is in this one part of the warehouse, the lights are out and the management team isn't fixing the lights. And in order to pick product from the high shelf, you're not only up on top of a picking machine, you're having to have a flashlight to look at the SKUs, to read them and scan them and figure out what's going on. And when you can't see, you're going to sometimes pick the wrong product and the customer's going to send it back and it's a problem. So I go back to the director of operations and I said to him, well, it's been 6 months that this location has had lighting out in this one particular part. And your return rate at this location, we're wondering why it was so high, is like triple what it is at the other locations. And he said, well, our chief financial officer is telling us that that's the problem of the landlord. The landlord's supposed to pay for it, not us. And they went, why don't we just pay for it and go after the landlord later? And we did. And that we actually had some people that were fired that we talked to about coming back because I interviewed them and the people that either quit or got fired for quality. And they said management didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it because they couldn't do anything about it, right? And now did something about it and paid the money. It was about $5,000 to get this lighting issue fixed. And then you dig into it and you check with operations and find out the returns that they were getting cost them $50,000 in that 6-month period. So even if we paid the $5,000 out of pocket, it would have saved $50,000. That's just the kind of thing that sometimes people get stuck in the mud on silly things. That they need somebody to come in and look at it and go, okay, that old movie, Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Say, okay, McFly, figure it out, right? So
Back to the Future, yeah. So what systems, habits, or, conversations make the difference? I know oftentimes when managers don't listen, I would say cause is not really identifying, the employee's needs or identifying,
right.
What their want is, why they're working, why they get up every morning, their family, their career investments.
So what I teach when I have new leaders in a leadership development program that I put together for them, I always tell them the things first. I go through legal and compliant and good ways of selecting people, right? So use behavioral interviewing and all those things. Once we're done with that, we go into what you do with them when they get here. And I say, all those things that you can't talk about during the interview are things you want to know about when they come to work for you. You want to know kids, cats, dogs, husband, wife, movies, whatever it is, right? You want to know those personal things about your people. And they need to know that about you too. I call it building a personal, professional relationship with your team. The only way you're going to get them to tell you what's going on at work as well as other things is to build that personal relationship with them and get to know them. Operations people get stuck in the tactical, do this, do that, do this. Oh, you missed that. Oh, you missed that. And I worked at a place where we made IV infusion pumps. And one day I was walking the line I did it every day. I walked the line as the HR guy because the operations people walk the line to find problems. And we had an employee that I saw, she was sitting there crying and doing her job. And I said, what's the matter? She said, my cat died this morning and I was afraid to call in and take it to get it cremated because
Mm,
and I didn't get home in a box, and I can't take it because I'm afraid to lose my job because my boss has fired other people for calling in once. I find that hard to believe, but I said, okay, let me go talk to him. I said to to the boss, and we had lines of 20 people, and I said, hey, did you go down and did you see that person today? He said, yeah, I talked to her about a couple of things. How's she doing today? He said, well, she looked like she was doing fine. I said, no, really? Did You could tell in her eyes she was crying. Did you take the time to figure that out? I didn't look her in the eyes. I just bring her over and talk to her.
yeah.
And finally he said, oh my God, I had no idea. I told her to get the hell out of here. She should have called in. Go take care of what you got to take care of. Right.
Yeah.
But the bigger question for me was, why did you not see it?
Yeah.
Right. Why did she feel uncomfortable coming to you, talking to you about it? Because you haven't taken the time to build that relationship with her. Right.
Yeah, one-on-ones and relationship building is it's very
Yeah.
important because it's almost as if, everything is transactional and you miss the bigger picture. And then that transactional relationship, you lose money on the
Yeah.
transactional side,
So
right?
a couple of things that I teach not only leaders but employees. There's employee responsibilities and employer responsibilities. This is another subject I talk about in my blog, right?
Mhm.
Employees have an obligation to be loyal and dedicated and show up on time to their companies. Employers have an obligation to listen to their employees. Sometimes when when an employee comes to me to talk about a problem and they say, well, my manager's always busy. I say, go in their calendar, find a half an hour of time that is not there and schedule time to go see that manager. Then I go to the manager and say, guess what? Johnny just put time on your schedule. So guess what? What Johnny wants to talk to you about is important. And they go, what you want to talk to me about? So I'm not telling you, let Johnny tell you about it. So what you need to do when Johnny comes to see you at that half an hour, shut your computer, shut off your phone, shut your door, don't answer the door, put a sign on the door, say you're busy, and focus on Johnny when Johnny comes in your office.
Yeah.
Once you do that with the first person, everybody else, they'll go out and they'll talk to other people like, oh my God, I went to talk to Jim and geez, I had no idea that he would listen so well. But Jim's busy. He's a day-to-day putting fires out manager. And you can't just walk in the middle of the day and say, I need to talk to you. And they're going to go, I'm busy. Schedule time. And you never schedule time. Schedule
Yeah.
the time. They're willing to talk, but you need to take the time to do it the right way.
Yeah, definitely. If there's a leader listening to this right now and suspects their company is heading, in the wrong direction, what should they look at first?
Start doing one-to-one sessions with their team. Sit down and say, hey, I want to know how I know you can help this business grow. And I brought you on because you're a valued asset to the team. We're not getting there. We're missing something. What are we missing? Tell me what we're missing. Business owners and leaders need to be vulnerable. They need to open themselves up to listen to their teams and accept that feedback. And never say to somebody when they give you feedback, oh, we tried that already, it doesn't work. Take notes. Take notes from the entire team. Talk to everyone. And then after you have those sessions with, let's say you have 5 people, sit down and talk to those 5 people. And then go back to them in a group and say, listen, out of our conversations, these are the top 3 things that you think we can do that I could fix. There's certain things I can't fix. And you need to tell them these 2 things are the things that are part of just working in this environment. There's nothing I can do about those. It's hot in the warehouse, in a call center, the phone ring all the time, right? All those things that you can't do anything about. It's part of the job. But here's the 3 things that you all brought up that you all kind of agree on, at least the majority of you do, that I think we could work on. It's this, this, and this. Let's say there's 20 things they bring up. Don't talk about all 20. Talk about the low-hanging fruit, the ones that you could fix right away and make an impact so that your team knows that you're listening and that you're going to take what they say and you're going to work on it. And then you're going to say, there's other things we talked about. They're important. We're going to move those in at some point. But right now, let me focus on these 3. These are the 2 can't do anything about. It's part of being in the job we're in. We just have to learn to deal with those 2. These 3 things that you all brought up are things that I could fix. And I appreciate you bringing them to me. And as soon as we get them fixed, I'll bring you back in together and I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
The big C word, communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. CCC, you got to communicate always, right? So yeah, this was great. I love how, clearly you laid out all the signs leaders miss before, these issues become expensive. So that's why you're a trusted advisor in your space.
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's the point why I call myself a trusted advisor. My job is to give you advice, right? And I don't have a license that if you don't do what I say you do, I'm going to lose it or whatever, right? I give you advice, right? And my advice, you could take part of it, not take part of it. Or you can say, thank you for the advice, appreciate it, thank you. Some companies have very low risk tolerance. They want to put processes in place that have no risk whatsoever, and that's usually impossible to do. Other companies have a little bit wider band of risk. Sometimes you may say, look, if you don't do this, you're probably going to lose a couple of people. If you do this, you'll lose less people. Well, let me do part of it and then see if I only lose half the number of people you think I'm going to lose, right? So they're willing to take that chance in losing a certain amount of people because sometimes they don't understand how much it costs every time you have to replace somebody, right?
Yeah.
And if they say, it's going to cost me more if I implement all of that than it would cost me to replace somebody, then that's a cost benefit analysis that they have to do and that I can help them do as well.
Yeah. So for those people listening, Tony Melchiorre, he works as a trusted advisor with owners, and we've been talking about how these problems show up in the real world before they turn into bigger costs. Tony, thank you so much for joining us on Advisors on Growth. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who want to check out Tony's profile on LinkedIn, you can look him up. That's Tony Melchiorre. And you can also go to his website, which is aimhighr.biz. That's www.aimhighr.biz. Thank you, Tony.
Take care.